to you, Heather.
Okay, I just want to welcome everybody here tonight. My name is Heather. I'm the chair of the Michigan community. Thank you everyone for joining us. This is going to be a great opportunity. I'm going to introduce Laura Hollenbeck, who is one of our members of the Michigan community, who is going to teach us tonight about emulsifier-free cooking. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Laura. Just one thing though, before we do start, if anybody has any questions that they want to ask during the presentation, if you want to post those in the chat section, we will, ask Laura those questions. Everybody is probably going to be muted, and just so you're aware, with it being a Zoom, your picture will show. So if you don't want your picture to show, then you'll have to turn your camera off. But I'm going to pass it over to Laura and let her get started.
Thank you, Heather. So should I just start?
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, all right. First off, obviously I'm Laura Hollenbeck. I first found out about the Angioma Alliance about 10 years ago, and that's back when I think we were an online forum. I mean, where basically our identities were, a lot of people didn't even put their real names up where we could chat, but so we had no Facebook or anything like that, but those people in that group really saved my life through my craniotomy when Dr. Awad had to clip my aneurysm. And I still remember them so fondly. And then of course, as things progressed, the aneurysm was basically found when they were observing my caprinoma, because I'd had a bleed in 2008 and it was not diagnosed because at the time I was a runner, and when I was in ER, they decided not to do any imaging. So it was never detected until obviously I went later to a different doctor and they did a scan. So it was then that they found the aneurysm. And so everybody, like I said, was great support for me. And it's been 9 years since that. And a lot of things post-surgery were very difficult. Dr. Awad was very successful with my surgery, but my body did not react well to the Keppra and the different meds that I was on during the recovery in the hospital. And I went into a terminal coma because my sodium levels tanked. So I surprised everyone and I woke up. And so, I'm just grateful to be here. It was wonderful after that to get into Facebook and meet like Linda Hamilton, who was a great shoulder to cry on when we were trying different seizure medicines that I couldn't take because they all pretty much put me back in the hospital again due to hyponatremia and sodium issues. So the difficulty with all that sort of thing was I finally lost my faith in pharmaceuticals. I found, I was like, what am I going to do? And so I'd heard that Hopkins could help children with keto way back when it wasn't really a trendy thing to do keto. So I did try to do that, which was destructive because it was nearly impossible to keep a state of ketosis, and eating the saturated fats and the high quantities of unhealthy things ended up being very destructive to my heart and my husband's heart because he ate what I cooked. So that transformed into wanting to get healthier and healthier, and I started studying up and watching everything I could and finding all the information I could, and tried a lot of things. But the best thing was just about 2 years ago going plant-based, and I'm going to try to keep things simple. But so that's, when you go plant-based and you get to whole foods, you pretty much do stay away from emulsifiers. So when the studies came out, I obviously had started to get away from them. Before I quit eating meat or eggs, I should say, and dairy, my doctor, without me knowing, tested my food allergies because of my inflammatory markers. And it showed that I was allergic to eggs, which was kind of crazy because I'd eaten them all my life, every day. I loved eggs. I mean, it was breakfast, it was lunch, it was dinner, it was in mayonnaise, it was in baked goods, custards. Christmas was Yorkshire pudding. So that was a huge adjustment and a shock for me that I had to quit that. But so that sort of came to where we are now. So that was then. And it's kind of amazing now because being almost 2 years, I don't need seizure meds anymore. A lot of the headaches are gone. The post craniotomy depression was lifted somewhat. The gastrointestinal problems, all eczema away. So it's just been a great thing. Am I going too fast, Heather?
No, you're good.
think we lost her.
I was just wondering what was going on. All right, she's on her way back in. In the meantime, while we're waiting for Laura to get back, can everyone just make sure you're muted?
Can you hear me, Darla?
Yes, we hear you, Laura.
Okay.
Technology is like that sometimes.
I just went back to my email and went back to the whole registration. I'm like, okay, I do this. So you'll just tell me when to start up, right?
You can start anytime, Laura, but we can't see you yet.
Okay. Do you want me to touch the character up in the corner?
Let me just ask you to start your video because that helped last time.
Okay. There we go.
There we go.
It was character. Okay. So anyway, so enough about that. So back to keeping it simple, eating plant-based and emulsifier-free. At least you know what got me here. A couple of things that were really big, that were impactful to me. In fact, just when I saw Dr. Awad last week, I gave him a copy of this book, which has just come out, and it's by the Shirzai team. They're a married couple, and Heather has the link to their website if you want to see that and learn about them. And obviously their book, I think that my library said they were getting it next week. They are both neurologists. He's a neuroscientist. She is basically a practicing neurologist, but she also, I think she did her residency at Columbia in vascular neurology. So she's very familiar with things. And what they both did was devise an eating plan that's really healthy for those of us that have brains that have different vascular abnormalities, and basically anybody who wants to have healthy neuro health. Am I still on, you guys? Well, anyway, it's a very simple way to start if you want to transition into eating for healthy brain, for brain health. And Dr. Awad was very excited about it. I'm not sure if I'm still, are you guys still hearing me?
We do hear you. Can you
Okay.
say what that book title is one more time?
It is the 30-day Alzheimer's solution. I didn't say it before. The 30-day Alzheimer's solution, the definitive food and lifestyle guide to preventing cognitive decline. And it's the Shirzai. I think I've got the, where did I, hang on a second. It's teamshirzai.com, that link.
Yep.
Got it?
Yep.
So anyway, so this is a very good basic way if you want to start looking, eating healthy for all vascular systems in the brain. So that's the link for that. Then another simple thing is something called thebigswitch.com. There's no T in that. It's
Out.
It's thebigswich.com, and the founders of that site and group, it's Dawn Thomas and Joe Girard, and they're classically trained French chefs that decided to change everything and spend the rest of their lives trying to help people transition into a healthier lifestyle and eat healthy. So if you go to that website, there's just a huge array of recipes and way to transition from things that we can't eat to what we can eat, and huge options. There's just so much information, and it's all free, so it's well worth going there. This one thing that I will mention later, this is a plant-based Parmesan that I got from the Big Switch, and this is basically nutritional yeast and several different kinds of nuts pulsed in the food processor, and it's absolutely delicious. I mean, you could just put this with a little pasta water on your pasta. It gets creamy, and then you get that same Parmesan taste without any kind of, dairy or emulsifiers that you would have otherwise. And this, you can make the batch, and it makes a good size, and it stays in your refrigerator for probably, oh, I don't know, weeks. So, and it doesn't last that long though. It's always gone in my house. But so thebigswitch.com, Heather, if you want to put that up, that's one that is really good to go to for simple beginning transitional eating. The other thing is nutritionalfacts.com, and it's just how it sounds, nutritionalfacts.com. That is a site of Dr. Greger, who is the one who's in charge of that. It's just a staff of doctors that all they do is study studies, and they cross study different studies. And what they do is they figure out, they don't give opinion as much as what they can derive from all these different studies, that they try to determine the validity of the studies and the outcomes. And then there's a series of videos on just about every subject. There's one in particular that has to do with eggs. And how they affect our cardiovascular system, which is obviously our cerebral vascular system as well. And I think, Heather, gave you that link. Otherwise, if you don't get that link up, if you go to nutritionalfacts.com, you can search just about any subject that you're concerned about, and videos will pop up, and you just go to whatever ones you want that you find interest you, or wherever you are. And that's the thing, because transitional eating it's a journey. It's never like that. It's always like that, like that. You'll hear about somebody who had a heart attack and they just immediately went straight boom. And, that's great. But the reality is most of us go like this on our way up. It's not, a direct line. So anyway, and the only reason I send you those things is because there's an overabundant amount of information online, and I had to read so much stuff that was garbage that to find the good stuff was really nice. And I was just trying to help you get through that without having to waste a lot of time. It's a rabbit hole, so many of them, when you get on there. So basically, there's no processed foods, no eggs, and basically what I do, it's hard to stay away from or go near so many substitutes. They all seem to have emulsifiers in them. So I'll show you some products that I happen to substitute with. First of all, as far as a mayonnaise that you don't have eggs or emulsifiers in, I went through a lot of them, but this Follow Your Heart avocado oil veganase is the best thing that I have found. It's the purest, even though it's got some oils in it that obviously, if that oil is not in your diet, that's a different issue, but there are no emulsifiers. And it's a great thing to supplement if you need to have, your sandwich with mayonnaise, or your tuna with mayonnaise if you're still eating tuna, or whatever you're doing. So Follow Your Heart, the avocado oil veganase. That's a good, safe one, and it tastes good. As far as milks, obviously there's no dairy in our house anymore. And the only milk that I've been able to find, at least in my neck of the woods in Grand Haven, is the East Eden soy milk, because it's just soybeans and water. And I love it. It's creamy, it's thick, and I'll show you something that we'll do with it shortly. This one, I believe too, West Soy also is purely the beans and the water as well. But most of the nut milks and things that I thought I liked, I'd end up finding out last year that, it was on our list of emulsifiers and I couldn't use them. One thing I'm going to do before I show you other things, because it needs to take some time and we're going through 15 minutes already. There's a creamy salad dressing that I have given the document to Heather for the recipe, since one of the things that we can't usually get are creamy salad dressings that don't have emulsifiers. So this is one that's really tasty, and it there's kind of a skeleton recipe. You can do whatever you want with it, but I'm going to give you mine, and then you can transform and change it any way that you want to. So for this one, and like I said, the document's available, Heather has it. You take 1 cup of the soy milk. And I'm doing this ahead because this is called clabbering or curdling. And you're going to take the 1 cup of the soy milk and 1 tablespoon of vinegar. Apple cider vinegar is what I'm using, but you can use white vinegar. You can use lemon juice. I'm just using the tablespoon of, maybe tablespoon and a half of apple cider vinegar. And the reason I did that and interrupted was because it's going to take a while for this to thicken, curdle, or clabber. So I'm just going to set that aside and then we'll look at that in a little bit. So that's for the creamy dressing that ultimately we will do. So back to products for substitutions. Butters, I mean, there are some delicious like vegan and plant-based butters out there, but they all have some kind of emulsifier. There was a recipe I wanted to do for today because it's biscuits, but the Miyoko's butter has an organic sunflower lecithin in it. And even though from what I'd studied, it's not so bad for us, it still is an emulsifier. And we're talking emulsifier free here, so it's out of the picture. Butters, nut butters, I found are good replacements for a lot of things. I mean, you don't just have to have them on toast. The cashew butter is pricey, but you don't use a lot of it for the different recipes that I do. After I get all this stuff finished tonight, I'd be happy to come back and do, like, say, my lasagna or my lasagna soup or the vegetable lasagna or a number of recipes, how to step-by-step recipe. But this is just to basically get the foundation out there and keep it simple. The lasagna soup, for example, uses just, I think, a quarter cup of this for the big pot, and it's creamy and it creates the same illusion of having a lot of dairy and the emulsifiers that we don't. And it's really delicious. But anyway, so almond butter, cashew butter, peanut butter, but the nut butters are still healthier than the peanut butter. As far as sugar, maple syrup. When I bake and things, I use a lot of different sugars, which I'll get into later. But the maple syrup is like for like in coffee or tea, not a lot. It's expensive. So as I think Jane Esselstyn said, it's a good governor because you don't use a lot. But it's replaces all the other issues and it's pure and none of the additives and the, like I said, processed things that we typically put in our food. Let's see, bread, Ezekiel. We keep that in the refrigerator. It's just a sprouted grain bread, so you don't have flour. A lot of people have sensitivities or whatever. This one is just fantastic. Keep it in your freezer, pop it out, toast beautifully, even defrost nicely for a soft sandwich. We do paninis, everything with it, and it's just a great substitute. The, let's see. It's hard to find. Oh, I know. Somebody asked me, two people asked me actually, they said, we can't get protein bars or we can't get energy bars anywhere. So I did do a recipe that I use for energy balls or protein bars. Difference is that after you've processed it, you can either smash it into a pan and put it in the refrigerator and cut them into bars, or you can just roll them into these and obviously take them any way that you want. It's basically a cup of pitted dates, half a cup of old-fashioned oats, half a cup of walnuts, quarter cup sunflower seeds, quarter cup of the almond butter, 1.5 tablespoons of maple syrup for the entire thing, a tablespoon of cacao nibs, just for a little, caffeine energy or chocolate. It doesn't do a lot of chocolate flavor, but a little. I put a teaspoon of cinnamon and a teaspoon of ginger just because I like those flavors, a dash of sea salt. On the document for this recipe, I do show a lot of options. A lot of people like to get mini chocolate chips, and this is a great brand that is pure and doesn't have anything bad as far as emulsifiers in it. It's Enjoy Life, and they have tiny little chips that are available, semi-sweet, and you can roll those in if you want chocolate, or you could melt them down and dip them or drizzle them across the bars if you're going to make them that way. But otherwise, you just process all those together. I tend to put the dates and the almond butter together first so that it sort of softens so I don't burn out my food processor, and then just add everything. And when you put the oats in last because they're kind of dry, and then it's still going to be kind of clumpy, and then you can roll it and, like I said, or put it into a pan and flatten it, drizzle the chocolate on, refrigerate it, or do it this way. These, either you can dip it into chocolate. I like to roll them in hemp hearts. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. Anyway, there it is. And otherwise, they are plain. But again, you can take these with you just like you would buy a little packaged one, and it's not going to cost you as much in the long run as it would if you were eating them all the time and buying them on the go. And it's very, very healthy. Anyway, that document is available. So there's the energy bars. Crackers I find are difficult to find. I think that I was trying to find a quick graham cracker crust or something like that, and I couldn't find anything that didn't have some kind of emulsifier in it. But I found that Simple Mills, this brand, they tend to have a pretty clean ingredient list. As you know, if any ingredient list reads like War and Peace, it's got to be bad. But these guys, they just use tapioca starch and, like I said, rosemary extract for freshness and no emulsifiers. There is a little bit of sunflower oil and I think flax. So the flax, that'll often create an emulsification too. So anyway, that's Simple Mills products, not all of them, but obviously we all read labels now. And that reminds me too, I know that as far as I'm concerned, when I go to try to find wraps, in a store, a package of wraps to make wraps for sandwiches or whatever, breakfast burritos, that they're all filled with emulsifiers. And so with that disappointment in mind, I did make a recipe, which these are delicious. These actually use something called psyllium husk, which is one of the things that people use to replace eggs now in baking. I think a lot of people use psyllium husk in for keto stuff now too. And I think when I direct you the link to the chef who developed this recipe, she's amazing. She's ellavegan.com. Heather's got the website for ellavegan.com that she can put up on the thing. She just was so happy that we were going to use this, and I just got the approval from her that I could show this not too long ago. So I was really happy because we made these and they're delicious. They're absolutely delicious. Her recipe, and I'll tell you quickly, she calls them keto tortillas, and you can find it at ellavegan.com. And it's basically almond flour, coconut flour for the moisture, the psyllium husk powder, which like I said, is your egg replacement, baking powder, salt, just a little olive oil and warm water. And you just basically, you can almost put it together by your hands, roll them out, put them in a pan, and they're just, like I said, they're delicious. And we made these yesterday, and so they last and they're supple, and that's just a good replacement if you like that, or if you've been looking for that. Besides the egg replacement, as far as the psyllium husk, which usually comes this is what it looks like, the psyllium husk powder. How you purchase it, and like I said, it's a soluble fiber. A lot of people are using it for other things, but it is a good egg replacer. But there's Bob Red Mill egg replacer, which I believe this is psyllium husk too, if I'm correct, with tapioca starch, no flour, potato starch, and baking soda. So the Bob Red Mill egg replacer is also a good one for baking and other things. This is agar powder. This is a good thickener replacement, but I'm going to get to this in a minute. And so anyway, so those obviously use the psyllium husk. Let's see what else. As far as cheeses, oh wait, the other thing about egg, if you're not going to put egg in a salad or something like that, and you want to get that little bit of an eggy flavor to it, I use this. It's black salt, properly pronounced kava maya, and it has a sulfuric tendency to it. So if you just put a quarter teaspoon in something and toss it around, everybody thinks it's that potato salad has eggs in it or whatever it is. And it's actually not bad. And it doesn't, it doesn't smell terrible, but it does give that hint of egg if you miss it. And I did miss eggs for a while, but I didn't miss what they did to me. So another thing that, kind of going all over here, but I don't know what else to do because I'm trying to give you as much information as I can. It was hard for me to find a vitamin D supplement, and Dr. Wadd's office wanted me to go up to 5,000 milligrams last week. And everywhere I looked, they were made with emulsifiers, every capsule, every whatever, even the dry tablets. And because I don't eat animal products, that created a different problem. But I did find this Nordic Natural plant-based vitamin D3 liquid, which is fantastic. It's just a little drop. It's barely anything that you put in. So it goes a long way. They had the liquid vitamin D3, which had limited emulsifiers, but of course it's made from lanolin, which, is a sheep. I don't know if they extract it from the wool or whatever, but that's obviously not the concern. But the celluloses in some of these are still a concern, but obviously have to get it down because that's what we need. If anybody has a suggestion, I'd love to hear, because as I say, this is the only thing right now that I've been able to find. So yeah, I'm gonna get that over with this. So let's see, the other thing too is that I can go back to the salad dressing now. I think it's starting, yeah. You can see it started to get thick, which gives you sort of a buttermilk kind of a thickness to it. And for this particular recipe, I like to put in a tablespoon of nutritional yeast, which we use a lot of here because it creates sort of a cheesy flavor, but it's also like a vitamin pill because it's got so much vitamin B and all the different things in it. And it's really delicious, and it's just dry, and there's nothing icky about it if you've not been familiar with it. And I put a tablespoon in this, and let's see, what else did I want to do? I put onion granules. According to this, I've got the onion powder, 1 teaspoon, a teaspoon of garlic granules, and it's still curdling or clabbering in there, which is nice. If this isn't thick enough for you, you can always supplement with that that mayonnaise. I'd like to put a little bit of paprika. This is just a 1/4 teaspoon, and a 1/4 teaspoon of dill. This kind of makes it like a smoky, ranchy little bit, but you don't have to use anything that I'm doing. You can change it your own way. I had chives in my garden still, so I like to put something green in there just because I like the way it tastes and I like the way it looks when I shake it up. So let's see, I need a top so I can do that for you. For us, this is thick enough. It doesn't wilt the salad like heavier dressings do. And it's usually, I mean, we usually eat it within 2 to 3 days. If it looks like it starts to separate in your refrigerator, just shake it up. And like I said, you can always thicken it a little bit with mayonnaise. I'll tell you more about a thickener shortly, but I can taste this because I'm the only one eating it. Yeah, but it's delicious. It's cheesy, it's salty, it's got all the onion and garlicky flavors and everything that you would ordinarily get in a creamy salad dressing. And as I wrote in the recipe, it's kind of a skeleton. You can change around your contents any way you wish. So that is the creamy dressing for salads. Am I going too fast, Heather?
Nope, I don't think so. I think you're doing just fine.
Okay, all right. So other things, when I got to cheeses there, Miyoko's, the butter that I said we can't use because of the sunflower lecithin, she does a sharp English cheddar farmhouse, and she does a cashew milk mozzarella, and these are both very tasty. This one actually tastes like goat cheese to me. She also does a cream cheese, and these are all without emulsifiers, and they're all made with plants, and they're not like, you know, express oil things like margarine based things. These are all very, very healthily made. Of course, you'll get some coconut oil in there, which obviously that's saturated fat, but you won't get any emulsifiers. The cream cheese is fantastic. In fact, I got it for this, and it seems to have been very popular here. The English sharp cheddar is very good. Between this, she uses a lot of, she's Japanese, and she uses a lot of Japanese like herbs and things. I think this one has something in it called organic konjac, which I was concerned at first when I read the label before I'd show it to you, but that is just an Asian herb, and it's just, it does do some sort of a thickening for it, but apparently because it's natural, it doesn't have the emulsifier sort of destructive qualities. However, you know, who knows what they'll say later, but but there's none of that in the farmhouse. And anyway, these are, but having been without the emulsifiers, I have to say that I can now sort of detect if we go someplace and eat something out, or I get something like, say, Just Egg, the egg replacement. We went to eat at a breakfast place, or we carried out, and they gave it, we had egg burritos, and I had to lay down because my stomach reacts immediately if I get overly exposed to emulsifiers. And there's a lot of that in the Just Egg and the egg replacement products. So these I didn't really have a reaction to at all. And like I said, there's none of our classification of emulsifiers in these.
Laura,
Laura,
what's the brand
yeah.
of those?
Miyoko's. And that's another website, but I don't have that one. I can tail that one if you want me to post it right after the thing. She's in Napa Valley. She's got an animal rescue farm, and she's just amazing. She's got a food truck that she was going to travel across the country to introduce people to plant-based grilled cheese for the whole year, and then pandemic hit. Instead, she used it to go to the front lines and feed all the workers and stuff. She's just really cool lady. But she's Miyoko Skinner is her name, and her website is, I just think Miyoko's, you can find it that way, but I'll post it. I'll put it up afterward. But that, like I said, the cream cheese is amazing. The butter is tempting, but like I said, the sunflower is in there. Sunflower lecithin is in there. If you want to make, like, if you want to buy broths, like stock and stuff that's ready made, because obviously, I've made a lot of plant stocks now, and if you're in a hurry, it's time consuming. It's delicious, but it's time consuming. These products are pretty good. This is Ocean's Halo, and they're clean. They don't like the no chicken broth. Used to be a vegetable broth, but nobody bought it as vegetable broth. So now they've changed the packaging to call it no chicken broth. I don't understand that, but it's all the same contents. And but these are great if you're in a pinch and you want to put together a soup or anything using broth, and get vitamins, iodine, things that we need. And they use, I think, seaweed, kelp, and kombu. They're ramen noodles. These are wheat. Those are a good one to add to that. But when they have bowls, don't get those because they put the gums in there. They get all the emulsifiers in there. They have a stir fry sauce that's very good. That's soy free, and it's clear. We're clear with that one. I've got a macaroni and cheese that I made that I used the Barilla protein elbows, which, but it's high protein and it's really good. This is basically a semolina, but they also put lentil flour, pea protein, chickpea flour, and spelt flour. And because people are so in transition worried about protein, it's a good one that I use when I help people because they feel better if they get that. Otherwise, there's a rice and lentil pasta. This one's from Italy. It's gluten-free, and they do advertise no soy, starch, or gums. It's a great macaroni. I don't know, I have to get it at a little health place here. If you have Whole Foods or even Trader Joe's and stuff, you probably have it. I don't have one for an hour away. Well, I'd have to go to land 2 hours away to get a Whole Foods, but it's Bio Nature. And this is just Barilla that you can get anywhere, the yellow packages. But these are all good. But these are really creamy, this Barilla brand. That's why I love it. And as I say, the nutritional yeast that we use so frequently here, which is going to come up again, is the Bragg's. There are others. We just make sure that it's organic and non-GMO. And that's one of the things that one of the doctors had told me that I'd read about, that the certain of these natural emulsifiers, if they're non-GMO, that they won't be so harmful. But obviously the jury's out on that for us. So we don't go there. But there's also this is a nut-based meat replacement. It's called Neat, and it is really, really good. And this is their Mexican flavor. So if you're making tacos or whatever, this is great. I think it's pecans, garbanzo beans, gluten-free whole grain cornmeal, Neat egg, which is chia seeds and garbanzo beans, which is not real egg, spices, onion, garlic, sea salt, ancho, chili peppers. So it's, it's a nut-based product, but it's delicious. If you ever run into Neat and you want to replace a nut and stay away from obviously saturated fats and things that are obviously beyond what we're trying to do here. Let's see, what else did I want to show you? I should get into, let's see, it's 7:35. This cheese sauce, I gave you guys the recipe for this. It's another document that Heather has. It is, where is it? This is sort of a generic recipe that I give you that, again, you can change. This is a fast one. You can make plant-based cheese sauces that are obviously emulsifier-free with anything. This one I used cashews just because it's fast. You can take squash. I mean, I could do another hour on making cheese sauces alone. But people use squash. Sometimes people will, roast the onions and carrots together and whatever, and then puree it together. But this particular recipe is 1.5 cups cashews soaked overnight, or you can boil them for 5 minutes and then let them cool and use them just so you soften them so they make it creamy. 1/2 cup of the nutritional yeast that I referred to, the cheesy product. Juice of 1 lemon, 2 tablespoons of onion granules, a tablespoon of garlic granules, and 1 1/3 cups water to consistency, and freshly ground pepper and sea salt to taste. Like I said, it's a basic recipe. I put roasted red peppers in this one. I used jarred because I didn't have time to roast them. We have jalapenos. My husband likes a jalapeno whizzed in there. Smoked preheat gives you like a smoky tang, so that's almost like a ham hock type thing. And cumin will take you another direction, and it's wonderful on pasta. Not sure how well our macaroni and cheese looks after the time it's spent sitting here, but it is delicious. And I did have it looking nice and fresh and soft and shiny, but anyway, it is, you just can't touch the stuff. It's really good, and it lasts in your refrigerator. That recipe will make 2 good sized ones, and it's only, say, I don't know, maybe 1/2 cup went into this bowl. So I don't know if you can see, like I said, it's dried up a little bit. I'd have to microwave it, but then I'll waste another 5 minutes of time here. So macaroni and cheese sauce is right there. It is delicious. My husband would probably enjoy that I put some salsa and cilantro on his. And so there you have another substitute. Something that goes good on cauliflower, cheese, broccoli, cheese soup. You can start to turn that into something. But like I said, if you even start to Google plant-based cheese sauces, if you go to the big switch that I mentioned in the beginning, they've got all kinds of stuff that they do lots of different cheeses. This one is just a quick one if you wanted to do something that stay away from emulsifiers and keep going with that. Okay, so where am I here? Going into baking. I did, like I said, want to do these biscuits, but with the sunflower lecithin, blew that out and threw that away. I made a Boston brown cake, which is a delicious recipe, and this is a recipe from Ellen Canner, and she is considered the soulfulvegan.com. That is her website. She is she's amazing. She's a food writer. She's a recipe developer. She is all over the place. In fact, she has a live event coming up June 30th, I believe. It's called Sexy Summer Salads. And there's especially one that's fireworks, black bean mango salad that I know is no emulsifiers for us. It's with another June 30th. If you go to her website, which is soulfulvegan.com, I believe Heather has that. You would find all the information about the up and coming event and her book, which is wonderful. It's called Feeding the Hungry Ghost, Life, Faith, and What to Eat for Dinner. Ellen does consulting. I think she does an hour where she will help people when they need to transition, and she calls it mindful eating. She's a wonderful person, and you'd love it. She's entertaining. You go to her site, you'd keep watching her videos and her recipes, because she's just got so much. She's a historian, a food historian, as well as a journalist. And so I highly recommend her and her website. You'll love her. And so this is her cake, and the recipe was very simple. It's delicious. We have already eaten a lot of it. It's an old recipe. It's an antique recipe, and it traditionally is made in a coffee can. I did not do that. I did it in a loaf pan. It's basically unsweetened soy milk, apple cider vinegar. You let it clabber or curdle like I did, and that's your buttermilkish additive. Whole wheat flour, dark rye flour, which is excellent for anyone who's got glycemic issues. I do that for my husband because Dr. Bernard, the diabetic doctor, claims that that's what anyone with diabetes or metabolic syndrome should eat. Cornmeal, baking soda, cinnamon, molasses, and raisins. And you just mix it together and you just put it in there and you steam it. I put foil over the top of the loaf pan and put it in a roasting pan full of water, and it's steamed through, and you just get this delicious, it's so moist and it's just wonderful. It's so sweet, and it's like molasses bread. I mean, if you put ginger in there, it would remind you of a holiday loaf. And I did the Miyoko's cream cheese on it today, and that's just absolutely delicious. You don't have to have it, but it just made it wonderful with tea in the morning. It was wonderful. So that is the Boston brown bread from Ellen Canner. Like I said, it's wonderful. And then when we get into baking, probably the queen of transitional baking, or the founder of it, is Fran Costigan. And this is Fran's most recent book. It's vegan chocolate. I know everybody says it's hard to find chocolate things and make chocolate things without emulsifiers, but she certainly knows how. I was not all that interested in learning baking. I was more into the savory end of things, but then I had to go to her live events and learn some things when I did my culinary school thing. And I just fell in love with her, and she just was so concerned because I said I can't have emulsifiers. And so she came up with all kinds of alternatives. And that was where I first learned about psyllium husk. And then she introduced me to agar. This is her vegan chocolate book. This is probably one of her most famous recipes. It's the no oil added chocolate torte to live for. She does have a recipe with the oil added, but I've made this. It's on my Instagram. It's absolutely, it is to live for. It's wonderful. Her website is Fran Costigan. I think, how do you probably already put that up? francostigan.com. But her first cookbook, and this is important, or not her first one, but one of her earlier ones, which I bought also, is More Great Good Dairy-Free Desserts Naturally. And this is because she started so early, long before it was popular. She had to change her diet because of health reasons. She had to figure this all out for herself. So one of the first things, I was going to make this, but as you know, we don't have much time. Baking powder biscuits. So this is another one, but instead of using any emulsifiers, the only oil in here is a canola oil that's actually placed in the freezer. So pastry flour, cane sugar, but she's particular about which organic, it's light, blah, blah, blah. And if, like I said, if we'd had more time today, I would do that. If you want to do something with recipes where I just do a step-by-step, I'd be happy to. I'm not promoting anything here. I'm not anywhere near a cookbook yet. It'll be a long time, so I'm not promoting me. I'm just trying to help and pass on information because I didn't have it. So I had to go and find it. So anyway, we can do that and go through her stuff. But anyway, this is a great one. And she was kind enough to include in her live event last week for Ruby Cooking School, us, and talk about how we shouldn't have emulsifiers and people shouldn't eat them. And she went into the school and had them put on their demo of using agar. Heather has the YouTube video, and it's called Lightened Up Summer Desserts with Fran Costigan. Heather, I'm not sure if you have it up there or not, but it's YouTube video, Ruby Lightened Up Summer Desserts. And you'll hear her mention, say, Laura, told me about, emulsifiers, blah, blah, blah. And they do a clip and they show you how to use agar powder, which is seaweed. And so what this does is it gels and it emulsifies without hurting us. I've made some wonderful little gelatin things. I've made pastry creams that were her recipes that are fantastic, where she would say use agar gum, but instead for me, she'd say just put more agar in there. And it's just wonderful. So this is just a magic little thing. I got this at a health food store. I could not get it anywhere during the pandemic when I first learned about it. So I ordered it from Amazon. A lot of the stuff too, I will get from Thrive. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Thrive, but you have to join that. And I'm not that consistent in ordering things from them to capitalize on that joining fee. But that is, anyway, if you go to that website, she's got that special clip on there, which is like a gift just to have them put that out there. And once you hear her, she's entertaining. I mean, you'll love her like Ellen. So those are two things that I recommend. And what am I forgetting? Let's see. We got the cheese sauce. We did that. The plant-based parm. Yeah, so I tried to do the hurry up thing. There was a bechamel sauce that I did make with the Culinary Vegetable Institute of America, and this was the recipe. I was going to try to stick this in today. This is one that I kind of tweaked a little bit after I made the cream spinach with them. This is on my Instagram. I put nutmeg in and a couple little different things. But this is great for a vegetable lasagna, some very rich dishes, but still healthy and very basic. But you'd be surprised how quickly you can put it together too. So I think that questions. Sorry, guys, I talked too much.
All right, does anybody have any questions that they would like to ask? You can unmute yourself to ask. You don't have to ask in the chat.
Laura, that was great. It was super interesting. I don't have a question.
Okay.
I don't have a question. I just want to tell you it was really interesting. And we have a document where we're keeping track of emulsifier-free ingredients. And so
Sure.
we clearly have like a lot of work to do to add all these things you've showed us tonight. Lots of great ideas. So thank you.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's hard. I mean, I can't tell you how many times we'd go places still and I'll say, well, forget that, forget that, forget that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And they try to slip them in too,
Oh,
because
they're in
as I said,
everything.
we've gone places and they'll assure me whatever, and I'll know right away because it just hits me like a gut punch, you know, and I'll have to lay on my side. So it's just like, forget it.
Oh.
It's not worth it. But yeah, like I said, there are a lot of good recipes. If you guys are interested in anything on the Instagram, there's a whole, I mean, that's all my stuff is, mostly my food. And if there's anything there, I'd be happy to make it, like I said, because I'm just here to help. That's it.
Okay, can I ask a couple questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
What would be a good substitute for like sour cream? Or
Oh, there
something
is
like that?
on the Big Switch. They've got a sour cream
Okay,
that
big
it's like a cashew sour cream.
Okay.
On the Big Switch, everything is very basic and they go right in there. Like, as I said, I kind of did a hurry up on this cheese sauce and the buttermilk with this. Yeah, I go to the Big Switch for that.
Okay.
And just because I don't have it, the increments right off the top of my head, I could go over there and get it for you, but then it'd be like,
No, that's okay.
you'll love it because you'll find all kinds of stuff on there, and they've got groups. They've got like, okay, the beginner tofus, and then they teach you all these people like my first time I don't like it, and then they'll show all these cool recipes, and I mean, you can just go on there and scroll and scroll and scroll, and you find all kinds of cool stuff.
That's
and it's
great.
just, and they're going to travel across the United States with their Airstream soon,
That's
I guess,
cool.
to give classes in every state someplace. So it's kind of cool.
Wow, that's great. Is
Yeah, and I get goosebumps.
is there like a is there a certain sugar that you're supposed to be using when it comes to baking versus other sugars? Like the normal white granulated sugar, is that what are you supposed to avoid that? Or I've seen like on the PDF that like sometimes you'll want to use other sugars. Like I think it was like maybe coconut sugar or different ones. Like
Right.
what kind of sugars do you use normally?
You know what? It'll all depend on what's going into. That's where Fran, if you go to that YouTube video, she even starts to get into that with the lighter summer desserts because she's so against the processing of cane sugar and things like that. So she gets into the organic stuff. So that's where she took over. Like I said, she put so much in that was like, I would spend 10 minutes on this, 15 minutes on that. I'm like, boom, boom. It's like, this is like a gift because everybody can see it from somebody that I had to learn it from instead of having to hear my, meager, attempt to try to interpret what she says. But I have all kinds of sugars here. In fact, I was going to bring them out, but then I would have been another half an hour talking about it.
Is that the same with like flour? Is there just like, it kind of depends, or do you usually tend to stay away from the like normal common like white sugar and like regular like flour? Yeah.
Let's see, is this my coconut sugar, organic coconut sugar? It's really good.
Okay.
And the thing about, like I said, with the tortillas, when you use the coconut products that are dried, there's more of a moisture to them. So they do help with different, chemistry as far as baking. As far as, oh, flowers, I've got so many flowers, it's unreal. But like I said, I was just trying to, I mean, and like I said, and I'm still learning from Fran. So it's, you know, I'm just going on 2 years.
Yeah.
So this is just, but it's, you know what, it takes a long time before your body starts to feel that fantastic too. You know, I mean, I
Right.
felt the benefits right away, but I see these people after 5 years, I'm like, well, will I ever get there? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So,
Right,
but the flowers,
exactly.
yeah, definitely the flowers. And there's a whole education there too. And she's got a lot of it in her videos and on YouTube and different things like that. She's definitely the expert. And like I said, she was a professional, regular pastry chef in New York and was, you know, celebrated that way. And then her stomach, she was lactose intolerant and
Oh, okay.
other things that, you know, she doesn't share, but she had a good reason to change over. But she cares so much
Right.
that once you start to listen to her, you'll just be like, oh, you know, okay, so anyway.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
For those of us that eat eggs, I've eliminated it quite a bit just because I have cholesterol issues, but
Right.
is it okay to eat eggs if they're baked, like you're using them for a recipe? I know don't use it like for eggs Benedict or something like that, because that would be in the raw form or an emulsifier form.
Well, you know what, when they tested me, and you know, because I used to use them, like I said, in everything. I mean, it was just my whole life. She was just adamant. She said, don't go anywhere near them. Don't use anything that touches them. And all my life, I thought I cleared my throat just as a normal thing. My parents cleared their throat, so it was normal for me to clear my throat. But I was in a constant state of, you know, what's the word, asphyxiation or whatever, that because I would constantly eat those, that was always, and it would always be an after effect. So as far as eggs are concerned, to me, they're the enemy.
Okay.
So, and it was hard for me because I had to look at them that way when I did not. So to come up with all these alternatives, and I did eat the alternative eggs for a while, but like I said, they still made me sick, and I didn't know back then that we couldn't have emulsifiers.
Right.
So, and an egg is
It is an emulsifier.
Laura,
I think we just lost her.
yeah, Laura, can you unmute yourself? I'm sorry.
okay. Am I there?
Yes.
Okay.
So you were saying eggs are an emulsifier?
Yes, they are
okay.
the ultimate emulsifier. And I
Okay.
mean, that's why that it's probably was destructive to me long ago. So, so that is, it's ultimately, it will come out. In fact, the Shirzai in the neuro book, you know, they will be very gentle when they talk about eggs, but they try to put it simply. They say, well, you know, the evidence isn't in, but we should definitely stay away from eggs. And so, but then you'll get, if you go to nutritional facts and you listen to what Dr. Greger's study results are and all that sort of thing, then I got scared. Then I was telling my kids, I was like, because they're in their 30s, you know, I was like, you guys can't eat those anymore. You just can't eat those anymore because, you know, it's going to be whatever. And you can't, because everybody's got, like I said, it's our own journey, as they say, you know, to sound cliche. But it's going to be, we decide to do what we want to do when we're going to do it.
Right.
But, and it was not perfect either, because we'd go someplace and I'd eat something and then suddenly I'd be sick and not know that it did have eggs in it. So,
Okay. So a good
but,
alternative for that, for a good alternative for baking with that, what would it be for eggs?
all these things,
Okay.
the Bob's Red Mill egg
Okay, yeah.
replacer, the psyllium husk.
Okay, the psyllium husk, that's
I
right. Okay.
didn't get to tell you this. If you want to do meringue, you just take the aquafaba, which is the juice of the chickpeas or the garbanzo beans, and you separate the juice, put it in a bowl, and you just whip it up. You can put cream of tartar in it, although I don't know if that has emulsifiers in it or not. But if you can whip the aquafaba and you can make a meringue, and that's how, like a baked Alaska that I'm going to make, that's how I'll be making it.
Okay. Okay.
But yes, aquafaba is an egg replacer. A lot of people do an aquafaba mayonnaise. In the Big Switch, you will learn about that because they will do that one. So the psyllium husk is the egg replacement. I have done for pancakes, flaxseed, ground flaxseed in warm water. And it swells up, so it emulsifies, and it does the same kind of egg emulsification.
Okay.
And then you get the benefit of the flaxseed too, because that reduces blood pressure. But the cholesterol, my husband was bad. And so, like I said, unfortunately, being sucked into the keto thing,
Mhm.
everybody is now. And friends will say things like, oh yeah, no, but I'm losing weight. I mean, yeah, but just wait till you see what's going to happen, because boom.
Mhm.
But it took a while to get all those numbers back down. But
Okay.
you can do it.
Okay.
You can do it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
So even when you do like a baked or just like scrambled eggs just on their own, or just like an over easy egg, is that still kind of considered an emulsifier even though it's on its own? Or is it
You're still
basically
getting,
okay?
you're still getting.
Okay.
Yep.
Now,
No, you're better
Laura,
off like a tofu scramble.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
you're allergic to eggs, right, Laura?
They said I was sensitive, but then it
Okay.
turned out that it was a full allergy. So
Yeah.
it's probably developed over time, exposure.
Okay.
You have anything?
No, butter's okay if you're not,
Well, the dairy, we got away from the casein here. And if you Google search the casein, or if you go to the nutritionalfacts.org and just look up butter and casein, then you'll find out about that.
Okay.
And he'll tell you what the results are of all the different studies. It's we ate a lot of butter when we were trying to maintain the ketosis state, and it was destructive. But like I said, now there is no plant-based butter that they have
Yeah.
out there that without
Yeah.
emulsifiers.
we've looked for that too. Yeah.
No. Mm-mm. No.
It's difficult.
So now it's, if any oil, it's a little bit of grapeseed, avocado oil, or olive oil.
Okay.
So now that's pretty much it.
Okay. Thank you.
But I guarantee Nutritional Facts and The Big Switch. And then if you check out Fran for Baking, that YouTube video, that pretty much introduces her to you. And Ellen Canner, like I said, as far as the, she does everything. I mean, her husband is not vegan. She's the soulfulvegan.com. Her husband is not. So she cooks a lot of things, not so plant-based. She'll put a lot of, products in that a lot of people would not agree with, but they're definitely not animal products, but they're just rich, things that saturated fat and stuff like that. But they're delicious, but she also does a lot of things that are completely pure and wonderful. And that's what her videos are fantastic. And she gives you the history of everything too. So, and she changes her ingredients around with the flours. That was, like I said, this cake was to be the dark rye flour to get a, other than pumpernickel, to get a cake that is it's just delicious. It's really sweet and molassesy and yummy. So.
Thank you. A lot of information.
Okay, are there any other questions that anybody has? Okay,
I do have a question.
go ahead.
Actually, I was wondering, I know that soy lecithin is bad, and she was saying that soy milks are okay, but soy sauce is not. So where do you draw the line with soy?
Soy sauce doesn't have the soy lecithin in it, not the one that I have. I use tamari, but the soy milk does not have the soy lecithin in it. It's just simply the beans and water.
Okay. Laura, I want to thank you so much for doing this for everybody.
Thank you, Heather.
Yep, I will post the links for the books and the YouTube video and the recipes later tonight, so everyone can have them. But I think that's it. Darla, do you have anything else you want to add?
I do not, except to say thank you, Laura. That was really interesting.
No, thank
and
you, Darla.
We did record this, so I'm gonna hopefully get it up on the YouTube channel soonish.
And I'll put the link to Miyoko's to find her products, the cheeses and all that stuff.
That would be
Okay.
great. Thanks for coming,
you.
everyone.
Thanks, you guys, for having me.
All right, I think we're all set. Bye, everybody.